The Social Shift with Josie Ipandwa is a podcast platform that allows for every opinion to matter. However, views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Social Shift podcast and team. For the past 2 weeks, we have been diving deep into social issues that have been affecting youth, and this week is no different. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Social Shift with Josie Ipandwa is, of course, dropping every week for the next 6 weeks, where we discuss one or the other politically inclined issue that affects the youth on a regular and deep level. Now, today's guest is, of course, one that needs no introduction, but he will, because he is absolutely fantastic in my eyes. And before I do introduce our guest, remember, none of this would have been possible without Konrad Adenauer Stiftung Foundation, and we thank them so much for sponsoring the first mini-series of the Social Shift. The Konrad Adenauer Stiftung is a German international political foundation with more than 100 offices worldwide. The KAS Namibia and Angola office, based in Windhoek, works to promote democracy, the rule of law, human rights, and political participation. Through educational initiatives and socio-political dialogue, it supports good governance and the strengthening of civic responsibility. KAS's work aims to foster freedom, justice, and sustainable development in Namibia and beyond. My name is Josie Ipandwa, and welcome to my YouTube channel again. And our guest today is none other than the most patriotic person I've ever met in my life. If there's anybody that loves Namibia, it is this gentleman, Denver Kisting. Welcome to my podcast.
Josie, thank you so much for your very kind invitation. Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you here, and I want us to dive deep because we have a lot of room to cover, right? So we are discussing, can social media activism replace real political engagement? But before we even talk about social media activism, what does real political engagement look like?
I think in 2025, firstly, that's a very relevant question, but in 2025, the way it manifests, the way it presents, certainly is not the way it even manifested in 2024.
Yeah.
Certainly not the way it manifested back in 1989. I think there have been some real significant shifts around real political engagement.
Yeah.
And the conversation in relation to social media and its impact on real political engagement is one that cannot be had in isolation.
Yeah.
I think real political engagement is one that goes beyond party political engagement. It is one that results in real, tangible change.
Yeah.
It is one that addresses policy, and policy must be a tool that enhances the lives and livelihoods of people.
Now, if we look at the nature of social media, right, there's a dark side to it. It's used as a platform to shame people. It's used as a platform to shame institutions, to unearth secrets and controversies, if I must say. But one of the things that I always say, that because of the filtered nature of social media, there's always a bit of a doubt that, are we getting the real story? Are we getting the real picture of whatever it is being shown on social media? And when we look at political engagement, that element of honesty and truth and reality is supposed to be present, right? Can the two mix? Can social media and political activism actually combine to invoke that real change that you speak of?
How much time do we have?
A lot.
This will require at least 7 uninterrupted days.
Yes, but we can try.
Yeah, I think we have to be honest and frank about the real, tangible dark side, the real drawback of social media.
Yeah.
But let's retract. Let's take a few steps back. Your initial question as to whether or not social media and activism specifically can replace real political engagement, I think the answer is a frank no.
Okay.
But of course, it's a lot more layered. It's a lot more nuanced. There's a lot that needs to be unpacked. Social media certainly has enhanced and continues to enhance real political engagement. But if it's limited to naming and shaming, if it's limited to unearthing secrets that may or may not be relevant to constructive discourse, I wonder what purpose it serves. I think we need to do a lot of work regarding media literacy in general, but we also need to do a lot of work in social media literacy. Many of us are under the distorted impression that what happens in social media is necessarily a representation of the truth, is necessarily the way things unfold in real life.
Yeah.
I think that is not the case, and we have to be frank about it. But is it a tool that can enhance? Is it a tool that can create awareness, even on the domestic front? Is it a tool that could potentially be used to boost positive and constructive engagement? Certainly, but I do think we have a long, long way to go and to get there.
But let's unpack the purpose of media, right? And the effect that it has, because I think we have to cover that part. We look at the levels or the percentages of access to traditional media in Namibia, just traditional media, right? And how that percentage is not as high as it should be for a country that is on its way to the fourth industrial revolution. Then we look at social media and what it requires. It requires a phone, or a computer, it requires data, and it requires time, of which a lot of people don't really have. So of what good use is it for political parties to then make use of social media as a platform to further their political agenda and to garner political engagement then if access to that platform is limited?
I think one of the biggest drawbacks, particularly in a country such as Namibia, is the terrible divide. And that needs to be addressed. If the stats tell us that about 60% of Namibians have access to the internet, that doesn't mean that it's consistently reliable. And I may have access to it. How often do I have access to it?
Yeah.
How often am I able to afford data in order to see to it that I stay abreast of developments that affect my life in real time? At the same time, if we return to the argument of social media literacy, I may have access to a smart device, I may have access to data, I may have access to dependable internet, but how do I use it? The issues are so cross-cutting, Josie, and one needs to have regard to all facets, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach that will apply. I think if the pursuit is to create awareness around a local authority that is not doing what it's supposed to do, if the secret that I'm unearthing on social media relates to criminal conduct on the part of a political office bearer, whether or not all Namibians have access to me sharing that on a particular platform. But if it reaches the relevant authorities and we see action being taken, then that is using the tool for the greater good. So that certainly needs to be said and needs to be acknowledged. What I find, the difficulty is it's challenging to establish whether or not Josie went out and voted in the 2024 presidential and National Assembly elections on account of what she had seen and experienced on social media in isolation. Very often, it may be all of the above. It may have been a combination of a few things to which Josie was exposed that informed her decision to take action, namely to go vote. Because what is beautiful, because it's so fascinating about apathy, is you have human beings who had gone to stand in a queue to get registered to participate in the democratic process. And then when the day comes for you to actually
vote,
take part in a manner that makes a difference, you're nowhere to be found. So what we did see is, we do know that as far as last year's elections are concerned, that we had 1.4 eligible voters, and we know that 90% of them had gone to register in order to vote, and we know that a significant portion, about 76%, if I remember the stats correctly, in the end then participated in those elections. But it's difficult, once again, to attribute that increased voter numbers to what had happened in social media. But what we have seen, different role players, including but not limited to civil society, certainly also political party actors, have resorted to social media as an additional tool. And I think awareness has been created, and more people may be aware of the issues that affect them. I have heard some of my elders who are not on any social media platform say, I understand he said so on Facebook, or I understand she alleged that on Facebook. So you may not have been, or you may not be part of that platform, but the awareness extends beyond the platform.
Okay.
That's at least my observation.
And it gives it reach, which is a good thing. But I think we also cannot steer away from the benefits of traditional community engagement, right? Because the fact that social media is so on the rise and there's a buy-in from everybody. I mean, our parents are doing, my dad learned how to do video phone calls on WhatsApp. It's getting,
I don't know whether that's a good thing. Okay, yeah, I hear you.
It's not a good thing, but we thank God for communication, right?
Yes. And that you have the democratic choice whether or not you want to engage.
I don't think that's democracy.
Yeah.
I think my father just has an iPhone and he loves to use it.
Yeah.
But that goes beyond the point. The fact that social media is now the preferred medium of communication and medium of awareness amongst people is starting to make it seem as if that should ultimately replace how it is political parties do grassroots engagement. But we also know that in terms of garnering the true numbers that you were speaking of, grassroots engagement is important. And there's some political parties, particularly the youth wings, we see that they're gearing towards more of the non-traditional, more current media platforms and completely letting go of the traditional way of doing things. But there's a benefit to going into the community, sitting under the tree and talking to Mekulu about, listen, if you vote for us, you don't have to work for your pension, right? Talk to us a little bit about why there is a need for us to rather strike a balance as opposed to completely letting go of traditional engagement ways.
You, in your introductory overview, had made mention of if one goes the traditional route, there is a presumption that it's truthful.
Yeah.
That it's rooted in truth, right? I think by the same token, it could be my in-person engagement with you could be rooted in a lie.
Yes.
I could manipulate you in person.
Because there are people that can look you in the eyes and lie properly.
Absolutely. And because we have some common denominator, whether it's a mother tongue or a place of origin, I may quite easily believe the untruth that you're feeding me.
Yeah.
So at the same time, and as much as social media lends itself perhaps more toward manipulation and disinformation and misinformation and lies because of the pseudo-anonymity, right? And because we need to do so much work in terms of our digital literacy so that we learn how to verify whether or not the information that I get on the internet is indeed the truth. I think at the same time, I can also mislead you in person. However, I do think we've not seen, despite the success of some social media campaigns, they're often very fleeting in nature.
Yeah, they are.
So we make a lot of noise today, and today we get an audience based on the noise that was made. And maybe there's still a bit of momentum tomorrow. The day thereafter, it's forgotten.
Look, we just need a new headline of someone arrested for stealing another 60 million.
It's gone. We have
Yeah.
So that needs to be interrogated a bit more.
Yeah.
And so unless, I think it should not be an either-or conversation. In any case, we cannot forgo the reality and increasingly so of social media.
Yeah.
But how do we merge? How do we establish a balance?
Yeah.
How do we ensure that I still go visit Mekulu and explain to her, listen, these are the circumstances, this is the situation, this is the scenario, and this is how your choice in a democratic setup will impact your well-being.
Yeah.
And at the same time, her great-granddaughter, who is attending a private school in the capital, can have a conversation about the similar matter with her because of where she gets her information from. But I think what must be acknowledged is it's not a simple matter. It's not an easy affair. We've also seen the big guns, and with that I mean those with financial muscle who are able to populate across platforms. So at the same time, engage in person en masse and make sure that this message in real time reaches all sorts of audiences across the spectrum. So financial capacity certainly also plays a role.
Yeah.
So even if I have a noble cause as an entity, But if I don't have that financial capacity, my gospel, may not get us enough.
It won't be far-reaching.
It cannot be.
Yeah.
So I think those are also real drawbacks.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the validity of the message that I have to share.
Let's go to the dark side, and you mentioned the word misinformation, which is so important because we see how very fast social media is, right? And that's one of the things that makes it wonderful to use because it's fast and far-reaching.
Fast and furious.
Yes,
I'm tempted to say.
Yes, it's fast and furious.
Yeah.
We do it for the family.
Yes.
A rumor can start in Keetmanshoop, but by 20 minutes, an hour later, the people
Katima
in the
Molilu.
they're
Yeah,
discussing
they are
it, right?
unsettled.
We've also seen the dangerous nature, the dark side of politics. And how, especially during the campaign season, we saw how all of a sudden now we're being told who's sleeping with who, and we're like, but that wasn't what we were discussing.
You see the
We were
WhatsApp
discussing
message, it says
manifesto.
forwarded many times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think there may be political parties that may not necessarily take that into consideration when doing the work, that the playing dirty that happens when using social media as a platform, when all the voters want to know is, what are you planning to do for us? How are you going to do it? Why should I vote for you? That dark side isn't discussed a lot. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I think accountability is a huge area for growth for all of us.
Yes.
It starts with the accountability of the self, whether it's in the flesh or in the virtual world.
Yeah.
And voter and civic education that's at the heart of all of this is not only the prerogative or the responsibility of even a body that's constitutionally mandated to host and manage electoral processes.
Yeah.
It's everyone's responsibility. So what we need to know is the drawbacks exist, both in person again, but also lurking, particularly in social media.
Yeah.
We need to hold one another accountable. We need what we saw during some of the regulations that were in place with the aim of arresting and stopping the further spread of COVID-19, where spreading misinformation or disinformation was criminalized. And of course, in a democracy, you do not want to unduly limit the rights of human beings, particularly as far as it relates to free speech. But we need to all realize that the right to free speech is not an absolute right.
Yeah, absolutely.
The right to life is not even an absolute right. Because if I cause your death and I get convicted on account of culpable homicide and not murder because there was justification, it shows that no right is an absolute right.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't think we hold ourselves sufficiently accountable, and we don't hold one another accountable. If my mother sends me a message via WhatsApp that says forwarded many times, and the nature of this is the private lives of political actors during a specific period, firstly, I must tell her, it doesn't matter whether or not that is the truth. How does that directly relate to what's happening at the moment?
And his ability to serve me as a leader.
Yes,
Yeah.
unless it's someone who's in a public health space and who behaves so recklessly that health, and not only his or hers, is on the line. Then of course, that's the context.
Yeah.
But moreover, I must be able to tell my mom, but where did you get this? That is not true.
And isn't that what makes it dangerous, though? The fact that it's very difficult to trace where misinformation comes from on social media.
To hold someone accountable.
Yes.
Yeah.
In traditional engagement, it's very easy to say no. But
Josie
Denver,
Tukase
you were
said it,
saying
yes.
under the tree at 12:42 on the 12th of October 1962 that we must not vote for this political party because they cook dolphin meat.
But that is what why I'm saying. If you share,
I know I thought of the dolphins. I think it's because the dolphins burnt in
but
Etosha.
they're doing well in the meantime. Have you seen how they're thriving?
Yeah,
we're happy
Why
for them.
were there dolphins in Etosha, Denver?
There were none.
Okay,
there were none.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's okay.
Let's go back to that.
I was saying-
misinformation. Yes.
It's so that's why, because it's so difficult to trace it.
Yes.
The moment you send me this message, I must ask you, where did you get this from?
Yeah.
Or I must tell you, this is nonsense, Mom. Please don't share this.
Yeah.
But what I appreciate, and I've got family members who operate like that, and there are quite a few Namibians I engage with regularly who are also like that. They would send you this message and ask you, Josie, I heard this from the auntie next door. Is it true? Right? That to me is responsible engagement. Or I saw this on social media. A sister of mine would ask, did you also hear this? That to me is how you at least interrogate what it is that you're receiving. I think it's a bigger challenge that we have. We have to do better in the manner in which we engage with one another.
Yeah.
We have to elevate the discourse. If we're serious about uplifting ourselves and our people, if we truly care for the well-being of our country, gutter journalism and gutter conversations cannot aid the well-being of this democracy. So in fact, it undermines.
Sensationalization sells, controversy sells, drama sells. And I think that's what a lot of political parties buy into, because we don't like the boring stuff.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo, you built a school in Nokabata Party, but why is that man sleeping with that other man's wife? That's what Namibians are drawn to, unfortunately. It does nothing for substance, especially in terms of what it is the political parties are trying to make aware to the general public, but that's what garner interest. And perhaps, maybe dare I say, that's what a lot of political parties who use social media are actually trying to use to try and garner interest.
Yes.
Maybe if we were a bit more controversial, people would like, subscribe and follow.
I can understand that and I can respect that. We are human beings after all. But to what extent does that lead to tangible, constructive change? I can enjoy listening to good tea, and that's okay. But how does that enhance my well-being? How does that affect change? We must be able also to separate the issues. And if you are sincere about your mission to gossip, own that. But know what you're doing is not constructive. And know what you're doing certainly will not aid the well-being of society. And also be honest and frank about that. But I think in terms of accountability of the self and toward one another, and calling each other out without having to name and shame one another. Because, I also run the risk, if I tell Josie, listen, that is a bit problematic, what you're doing, right? Will she now come for me, right?
And nobody wants to be caught in the crossfire.
And I catch myself not wanting to be caught in the crossfire very regularly. And I'm saying, but listen, Denver, if you're serious about caring for the well-being of this country, if you're serious about accountability, you need to experience the crossfire. It's not about being a martyr, but it's also about knowing that there is risk involved in holding someone in situations accountable. We had a terrible scourge and surge and wave of deaths by suicide in this country not too long ago. And again, these issues are cross-cutting. Nothing is apolitical, right? And the manner in which we engage as Namibians around such matters, we milk it for the controversies around it, as opposed to being serious about mental health. I based gossip and shame about you after your death instead of, getting my hands dirty, getting in the crossfire to make sure that your dignity is preserved, stays intact, but it's tricky. Speaking of apolitical, there is also a sense that young people particularly, if they would make noise around current affairs and an issue, their point of departure often would be apolitical. So yes, they create awareness. Yes, they're held accountable. But that doesn't mean that they care for a political entity.
So there's still that, look, I'm speaking on it, but that's not my business.
On a public holiday, you won't get me to wake up and go burn to the core in the sun. I'm going to take it easy.
I'm loved at home.
Absolutely. So that makes it deeply fascinating and, of course, very tricky. I think political actors, whether it's in the political party realm or in the independent candidate realm, they have their work cut out for themselves. It's a tricky business to be in.
How do political parties better garner? Because I'm just thinking, the youth wings of most political parties will watch this platform. Hey, guys.
Hello.
And this could be of a particular interest for them because that's the area in which they have expertise, and that's the way in which it is they could sort of develop or further the way in which it is their political party, their respective political party engage with community, right? How do you suggest political parties better use social media to benefit their level of awareness, but also the depth of awareness?
I think there must be a strategy. It can't just be left to random thought and to accident and to the back office.
Yes.
So it must be integrated into the ethos and the values of the entity. And you must be serious about that constituency. So it's not only about using the algorithms to your advantage to garner likes, because then it may seem as if you are leveraging the engagement, but it must still translate into actual votes on voting day.
On the ground,
And more importantly, if you're serious about policy and how it must be used as a tool to effect positive change, that engagement must be taken seriously enough that the users can see this topic that we spoke about on the social media pages of this political entity. That is what resulted in that motion in Parliament, and that is what actually impacted policy.
So it must go further than the screen.
Much further, you know, and we must be accountable, and we must honor our word, and we must also take young people seriously. We must also take users of these platforms very seriously.
And I think that's why a lot of the political parties are failing in the front of using social media as a platform for activism, because there's a lack of consistency. And we've seen that on social media, the accounts that are popping, the accounts that have the most followers are the consistent accounts. I mean, these young social media influencers now, they have teams. You have an entire production team. You have a recording schedule. And I don't think that the political parties are grasping that you need to have, like you said, a marketing strategy, a media strategy for the party. What kind of content are we creating? Why are we creating the content? What are the outcomes we are expecting?
Is it intentional? Is it deliberate?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it sensible? But also, if there's only an explosion in content around voting time,
that's the other.
And immediately thereafter, there's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Firstly, you're not taking me seriously.
Yeah.
And secondly, I can't imagine that there will be a correlation between that and actual policy change. I can't imagine that will be the case.
It will be very difficult. What about language? Because, you know, there's that generational gap that exists between the older generation, who, by the way, now also have Facebook and WhatsApp.
They do?
Yes.
They do.
And then we have the younger generation that knows how to put a lightning bolt in a video on TikTok and put songs in the backgrounds and all sorts of things. But it makes it difficult for the older generation, who are still within the voter community, to relate to the content that's being put out there, because a lot of mistakes that are made by political parties is they gear towards the youth, but they're not the only part of the voter group. So how do you best advise them in terms of relatability for their content, so that the message isn't lost in translation between the various groups?
I think language matters. And I think inclusivity certainly matters. There are avenues, some of them primarily traditional avenues, where you can still reach Namibians in their mother tongue.
Yes.
And I think we should preserve those. If we are also serious about preserving heritage and cultural heritage specifically, and we also want Namibians across the cultural spectrum to embrace all of our Namibianness, we should maintain that momentum.
Yeah.
I am wondering whether over-investing specifically in a multi-language social media campaign will necessarily achieve the results that one wants to. If we respect the fact that we still have a digital divide that we need to overcome, if we respect the fact that on a household level, internet usage is even lower than the national figure, and the urban and rural divide, we may have to be a lot more intentional. The interventions must be a lot more targeted. And I think that's where the in-person, the traditional approach can complement what's happening on social media. But one must have due regard to the context and to the circumstances. Surely if I visit an area where the lingua franca is Afrikaans, and I speak languages other than Afrikaans, I cannot imagine that will be an effective approach to
Absolutely.
it. Yeah. But I'm also very hesitant to exclude, and we must be mindful of the fact that as per the supreme law of this land, English is still the official language.
The official language.
But I think so many things can be true at the same time. More than one thing can be true at the same time. You can integrate.
And it's about integrating, striking a balance so that the strategy, yes, it must work for the party, but it must also work for the people who are your targeted audience. But the key word there is having a target. And speaking on targets then, do you think that it's wise then to have sort of a different media strategy depending on the platform, or is it wise to have sort of a blanket media strategy for all social media platforms, and it's really only the kind of content that you put out that changes?
I can't imagine that a blanket approach is the ideal one.
Yeah.
I think it must be targeted to the platform, and that's why it requires a dedicated team and dedicated effort, and to make sure that the team is also knowledgeable enough about how that specific platform works and who the primary users of that platform are, so that you can engage them meaningfully. I think, in as much as we did say that social media activism cannot replace traditional or in-person political engagement, right? We have to acknowledge and we have to accept that social media can certainly enhance traditional political engagement, and these two can coexist. In fact, I think it would be reckless and irresponsible to not want to integrate.
What are the sort of, I don't know what's the word to use there, the dangers of, because of the accessibility to social media by anybody, that anybody can just wake up and decide to become a social media activist, whether you are affiliated to a political party or not. I can wake up and say, no, but Denver, you stole the drought relief cooking oil and the cookies.
I saw it in your kitchen.
Yeah. And because I have a lot of followers, it can go viral without anybody verifying whether, number one, do I even know Denver or not, number two. And so you see a lot of the times some people will claim affiliation to a specific political party, put out misinformation, and then the backlash falls on the party itself.
And one has to wonder about the motive of the architect behind that, because it's such an effective tool. If I use disinformation, and with misinformation, the assumption is that it was a bona fide mistake, whereas with disinformation, the assumption is that intentionally I had spread wrong information about you, and it's such an effective tool to discredit you as my opponent in this race.
Yes, and we've seen it during election times.
We have a problem
here. It happens. We
have a problem here. And I want to take us back to freedom of speech. We live in a democracy where on the social media pages of the presidency, you may question and interrogate and discredit.
And disrespect.
And some of us even disrespect. And we see it. We see it all the time. And I wonder whether we sufficiently understand what it is that we're doing, whether we sufficiently understand what a democracy is, and whether we sufficiently have internalized and assimilated the dangers of undermining democracy. Yes, speak truth to power. Yes, hold the leaders accountable.
Yeah.
But how do we go about doing it? Why have we normalized that holding Josie accountable must be equated to disrespecting Josie? So I think, and again, no issue is apolitical. Everything is intertwined. Everything relates to one another. We need to continuously have these conversations. We need to continuously unpack. We need to continuously deep dive. But I do think it must start at a household level.
Yeah.
I do think what we see on social media exposes what happens on a micro level.
Yeah.
The interaction that happens at home, the way in which we respect our parents, our children, our partners, or not. I think that is reflected in the way we conduct ourselves on social media. I I refuse to believe that it comes out of the blue. I refuse to believe that it's random.
Yeah, it's a learned behavior.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes. But if we from the onset encourage vigorous and engaging discourse at home, but respectful at the same time, we in fact build democracy greater than undermining it.
And that's going to be one of my final questions, because
final question already.
Discourse.
I thought you said 7 days. I was just getting warmed up, madam.
We're on day 5.
Oh.
So discourse is one of those things that Namibians unfortunately do not have a strong suit in. I think we don't know how to argue respectfully.
Yes.
And furthermore, especially in the political space, we don't know how to agree to disagree without disrespecting. And we see it on social media. Not only in the comment section, but you can have a party that has a page on Facebook. They put out a statement. Then you'll have a member of the council of the party or specific committee of the party that will come out and say something completely against what. So there's a lack of media training amongst political leaders within their political parties, and so they seem like they don't have a united front on social media, and that can be disorienting for us.
It shows.
Yeah, it can be very disorienting for us, and that's one of the questions then that we ask, like in the political space, is there a way to have constructive, respectful discourse, especially on social media platforms where things are so instant, comments are so instant, likes and dislikes are so instant? Is it possible?
I think we need to do more in terms of capacitating our social media literacy.
Yeah.
We need to be a lot more vigorous to root out untruths. But I think a skill that we need to capacitate on both the individual but also on the collective level, Josie, is crisis management.
Yes.
And a critical component of crisis management is crisis communication.
Yes.
So in the very likely event in 2025 that there appears to be unsettling discourse,
drama,
in other words, also known as, how do we manage that? If we opt as a political entity to ignore it, what does it say about the respect I have for my users of the platform?
Yes.
What does it say about the respect I have for my members?
Yes.
If I just disregard it, if I just dismiss it, even if it's an untruth, we don't respond swift enough. We don't deal with swift enough. I know the Dolphins caused quite an uproar, and it's a social media application's inability to translate from Afrikaans to English in real time that had us where we were. I think what must be acknowledged, Namibians have a beautiful sense of humor. We are quite swift in that regard. I would love for us to leverage that, to deal with the darkness that lurks in the spaces of social media, to deal with the darkness that lurks amongst ourselves, and leverage that to build as opposed to just breaking down. Absolutely. Because I think there's so much potential in that.
Yeah.
We are a people of potential. We are a people of capacity. We are a people of incredible intellect and creativity.
Speak life into us, darling. You made me feel so powerful.
Oh, but how do we leverage?
That's now the ultimate question. And I think that leads me then to the next question, Denver. Yes, you can be wonderful on social media, but what the voters want is tangible results in real life. When there's no data, when there's no phone, is your message that you're spreading on social media transcending into the everyday life of the average Namibian? If I'm a young child in Rundu that is attending school under a tree, it's election year, and you want my mother to vote, and you're going on Facebook and saying, vote for Josie's Queen of Speech party, beyond social media, how does that transcend into affecting my life for the better so that I have a direct reason to buy in to voting for your party?
The unfortunate reality, I think, in Namibia has been that irrespective of whether or not a promise gets kept, we may not have always adjusted our behavior accordingly.
Yeah.
And I say this with a lot of respect. I think we are deeply loyal, But what we are also witnessing increasingly so, and perhaps that is where social media has been filling that gap.
Yeah.
To hold up a mirror for us. Because of how instant it is, I think many people decry the levels of corruption we see exposed in this country. I think it's a good thing that it's exposed. Can you imagine it not being exposed? And it becomes, I believe, and I hope, increasingly difficult to hide, right, what must be in the open. And that enhances accountability. I think social media has also helped us expose some rot.
Yes.
Social media has also...
And unearthed a lot of heathenous ways.
Absolutely. And that must be acknowledged. Social media has also made all the walls transparent.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I think we're doing great work also in the virtual world. We've crafted great policies. Two things can be true at the same time. Is there room for growth and development and improvement? Absolutely. But it's the responsibility of you and I. It's the responsibility of all political actors. It's also the responsibility of a voter voting for Party A.
Yeah.
And if Party A has not been honoring their promises according to my lived experience, I must interrogate my loyalty and that it's okay to do so.
Yeah. And
Whether
it's
or
okay
not,
to change your mind after
it's
a while. If
perfectly
something's not working for you, move on.
But what if we are married, Josie?
Divorce is an option.
It is. It's a lawful option.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't
And
work
the
out.
divorce rate is quite high.
It is.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if we got together through a common political home, and in the meantime you have now decided you're going to change your mind because you have every right to do so, then there's trouble. There's drama.
Let's talk about algorithms quickly because we know the way that it works. I actually found it quite funny. One day I just searched what a certain brand of a car looks like, and all over my social media platforms it's just adverts of buying this particular car.
You're being harassed?
Yeah, I was.
Let alone being enticed.
Against my will.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, Denver, that maybe because of the algorithm, the reason why a lot of political parties also don't seem like they are utilizing social media properly is because they're only popping up on the For You pages of the people that support them. So then how are you able to then use social media to garner additional votes from those who are not your supporters, who you are not part of their algorithm?
Remember what we said about those with financial muscle. And as much as we strive toward equality, we're nowhere near that.
Yeah.
And it still plays a massive role. But I think you may not rest on your laurels. So if you realize I may have little traction in the virtual world, am I doing enough to capacitate the real world?
Yeah.
To make sure that those areas cross-pollinate one another. It's one thing to play the victim on account of the present numbers. But if you are consistent in your approach and you remain truthful, I would love to believe that however gradual that process unfolds, that hope remains on the horizon.
And that there will be growth.
That is the hope.
Yeah.
That is the hope.
Yes. But consistency, like you said, is the key. I think, Denver, before we round off, if you are a young person out there and you make use of social media platforms, what is it that young people would actually like to see on social media platforms from political parties to make their social media activism effective as opposed to just dormant and time wasting?
About a year ago, when we started having conversations, particularly with civil society organizations who have roped in young influencers to create more awareness around civic and voter education, I always asked young people whether or not the perception that they're not really interested, that they really don't care, whether that perception holds truth. And their take is, you're undermining us. You are making assumptions about what it is that we're interested in. And hardcore need not be boring. And with hardcore, I mean serious political discourse of a respectful nature need not be boring. And whether or not you're an old or a young person, boring is boring.
Yeah.
So how are you going to engage me in a manner that speaks to me? I think young people want to be heard. Young people want to be taken seriously. Young people do not want to be spoken down to and looked down upon. And unless we commit to that and give them the respect that they deserve, we won't
Especially
win.
if it's on their platforms.
We
because
won't
let's be
win.
honest.
They'll come for you.
Social media is a young
It's
person's
theirs.
platform. Yeah.
Yeah, it's theirs.
Yeah.
They'll come for you.
Yeah.
And then I can't imagine that they would, invest in a camping chair and a nice sizable hat and a bottle of nice local authority municipal tap water and go stake it out, for a couple of hours in order to make their cross.
True.
So hold space for them, and listen to them and listen attentively. Don't decide what it is that they want.
Yes.
Don't decide on their behalf. We do it so easily.
Yeah. If you were to give
thought that was the last
advice to
question.
we're day 6 now.
Aha.
If you were to give advice to political entities using social media platforms on how to manage commentary, because I think that's one thing that they also struggle with. If you have a comment section, yes, you are hoping for good commentary on your post, but the possibility of bad commentary will always be there. The possibility of disrespectful commentary will always be there. How do you manage? And I mean, you're a seasoned media professional, so you know how to manage opinion, right? But I think they struggle in that aspect, and which is also one of the reasons why a lot of political parties are dissuaded from using social media, because it can be a bit unruly and ungoverned.
Rough.
Yeah, very rough.
Rough. It's difficult. That must be acknowledged. There's a page on Facebook around snakes in the land of the brave.
Yeah.
And Namibians are passionate human beings, right? So someone would post a picture of a snake, and then with the hope of getting some information around how poisonous or otherwise the snake is, for instance, right? Very quickly, it becomes very heated.
Yes.
Very quickly, it becomes very disrespectful.
Yes.
Very quickly, Josie and I, who are not snake experts, are coming for one another in the comment section.
Yes.
And
soon we're not even arguing about the snake anymore. Now we're arguing
very
about
personal.
Yeah, how do you say you are a child of God and you
behave like that?
Yes.
I've never seen you in church on a Sunday.
Yes.
I then broadcast out there.
Yes.
And what I saw an evolution on this particular page. So because the mission is natural scientific facts, right? As soon as, so they try and respond, I think they also have a quick response time, turnaround time. They try and respond as swiftly as possible, and then they close the comments. Why am I sharing this tale with you? Of course, closing the comments is problematic.
Very. Because it shows us that you're not comfortable receiving.
I'm not willing to be held accountable. Yeah. And I'm also not available for discourse.
Yes.
So even if someone had a valid point, even if someone had a respectful point,
yes,
they now don't have that avenue anymore. I think you must appoint dedicated individuals whose sole mandate will be those pages.
And who can be
in
trained.
shifts. In shifts.
Yeah.
I have seen what difference it makes. Let me tell you this story. So I once wrote an article that appeared on an online platform. And someone criticized the use of a specific word within the context of a road accident that had been reported on. And I figured, you know what? I can acknowledge that I may be triggered by the manner in which this is dealt with.
Yeah.
Right? By the perceived tone. I can also acknowledge that it's my perception of the tone. I can't see the person.
Yeah.
I can't hear them.
Yeah.
So it's my perception of their tone. But this language matter is actually a matter that I had dealt with in the past. And I am able to comfortably use that term because of the lesson that I had learned. So I reached out to the individual and I said, thank you very much for the engagement. This is the context thereof. And you know what? It was actually so well received. And we're still in touch long after the fact, and our engagement remains very constructive. It's an isolated incident. It's certainly not representative of all of life.
Yeah.
It's certainly a full-time assignment to manage responses and engagement and interaction, but that's what you want to promote. But if you dedicate yourself to it, you may impact the institutional culture and do so positively. But very often, we either block that individual, we ignore, we step back.
Very exclusionary.
But we don't take our role of educating one another respectfully seriously. So how do I educate you or assist you or hold space for you respectfully. Because also if I'm trying to help you because you called me out, but I'm trying to be even more disrespectful, where's that going to go?
Absolutely.
So, Josie, these are not easy questions. They don't have simple answers. It's layered, it's nuanced, it's complex, like the human experience, like the lived human reality.
And it speaks to also the intolerance level in the country. I think in general, outside of just political parties, we have a serious intolerance problem in Namibia. I have my opinion, you have your opinion. How can we disagree or agree to disagree without needing to box each other?
Yes.
Or without needing to block each other?
Yes.
Or now go and create falsehoods and spread them on social media
that have nothing to do with the issue.
Yes. And that's where we find ourselves. And I think political parties need to start taking an interest in learning how to take constructive criticism, number one.
Yes.
How to deal with negative criticism, number two. But also how to maintain control of their platforms, especially social media. Denver, do we have any final words? Unfortunately, we are now at day 7.
My goodness. It's been an adventure.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me.
It has.
I think this beautiful country of ours has so much potential, and I do believe with all of my heart that we're building this country one constructive conversation at a time.
And with the local authority elections that are coming up.
Yes, the 26th of November 2025.
Yeah, this episode is going to be of great benefit for those who are still mobilizing their votes within the parties.
Thank you for the platform, and thank you for the great work that you continue to do.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you to your team also.
It's a pleasure having you. Yes, my team, they're tired of me, child. They're so tired of me. But I am not tired of you. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification button. You are on the official Social Shift podcast platform on my YouTube channel, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Remember, you're more than welcome to engage Denver on his opinions in the comment section. He'll be monitoring them closely, and he will be reaching out and responding like he said he does. Thank you so much for joining us. We're halfway in the mini series, and we're going to be continuing with the next 3 episodes over the next 3 weeks. My name is Josie Pandwa. This is the Social Shift, and the conversation cannot end here. We must take it further. Whether you are taking it further over a beer, after the news, after a Sunday nap, it doesn't matter. Keep talking, keep engaging, keep rationalizing. Until next week, it's bye.